Welcome back, I'm Kim Bailey and this is Floral Art Online and you're watching the Store-Bought Flowers series. This is the second of 4 videos for party time, and as I record this it's January in Australia, so we're into party mode. We've had Christmas, we've had New Year, and now it's summer holidays time. So we're looking at entertaining, and today it's going to be a simple arrangement using this bunch of store-bought flowers. Now if you've seen one of the other videos you'll know that I bought these from a local fruit and veg store, and they are locally grown, so you get really good value in the bunch. This was around about $30 for the bunch, so a stack of flowers that you can use. So it's worthwhile having a look around locally rather than just always go to the florist or always go to the supermarket. Have a look locally and see if someone is got a little business where they have some added extras that you might be able to take advantage of. So what we're going to do today, as I said, is a table centre or for an entranceway at your house when you're entertaining, for indoors, not for outdoors. In terms of Australian designs for outdoors, it's more about barbecues and it's about hardy stuff in the hot weather. So this is for indoors. We're going to use the system where we put a grid across the top of a container, a vase, and we'll look at a couple of different ways that you can work the container to make it a bit more interesting. Let me get started and turn the camera down onto the table so you can see what I'm doing. So first of all, we're going to prepare our container. As you can see, I've got a nice square glossy vase, very useful for all sorts of purposes. But in terms of putting flowers in them, the trick is to give the flowers something to rest against so that they've got some structure and you can keep them in the place that you want them to look, rather than just bring the bunch home and throw it into there. There's little simple things you can do that will make your life easier and make the display look better. This one is the simplest of all. It's basically using sticky tape to make yourself a grid across the top so that you've got squares where you can put your flower placements. The beauty of that is that if you've got flowers that you want to swap out or change, you just lift them out, put the next one in. Sometimes you'll need to take them all out and clean the water out, probably once a week, once every 10 days. So it just makes it easier for you to utilize a simple vase in all sorts of different ways. So I have shown this technique before, but I'll show it to you again. So we'll run it through very quickly, but it's basically just using sticky tape and running it the 2 different ways. You can do it diagonally if you want to, but I think the vertical and the horizontal work better for me in terms of a grid. So we'll just run that through very quickly, probably speed up the camera so you can see it happening, but and you won't hear the noise as much. Right, so there we have it. Our grid is done. Can't turn it up to show you because I've got water in the vase already, and so that would go everywhere. But it's basically just a grid, no other way to describe it. And it gives you those spaces in between. If you had thick stemmed flowers and you felt that those spaces were not going to be big enough for what you've got to use, you can pinch that sellotape against itself, and so it gives you a little bit broader an area to use. So let's just start with the placements. What I want to do is have it a little bit of shape. So you can either start from the outside and make sure that you've got something that drapes over the side so that people are not seeing that sticky tape. But I'm going to do something different with the outside of this vase because I'm not a great fan of the shiny black vase. I like it to be a little bit more matte in its texture. So I will start from the center and just work my way out, but you can do it any way you like, but do it in some sort of pattern. So either start from the outside and work your way in, or start from the middle and work your way out. Think about the heights and about the angle that people are going to be looking at it. One of the things that I will show you is the difference when it's finished between having it what we call flat facing or having it at an angle. And so it changes the whole dynamic of the design, and very easy to do with this sort of a container. So think a little bit outside the square, so to speak, about how you're going to place the arrangement once you've finished it. let's get started putting some of these flowers in. Now I've got quite a range of colours to choose from, and I think what I will do is just stick with the variety of pinks. And what I'll do them in shades, tints, tones and shades. Very popular competition title in this country. So there we've got 3 stems. They've got varying numbers of flowers on them. I could use them as they are, and this largest one, this central one, I will use as it is. I will keep all of the foliage on because that fills it out nicely, and you'll see a bit later on how I'll. So we might just bring it down a little bit. Now it's not quite in the centre, I know, but we're going to work around it. So it will obviously move around till we've got other stuff around it. So let's get some of that stuff in. Now this one, I'm actually going to put down quite low so that it will give you your eye a flow through to lower down in the design. And I've cut it like that so that I've still got the foliage that I can use in between. I'm going to put that one down. In the same space in the grid that we've got. But not through the plant itself. And then we'll put in some of the foliage. And there we have our first placement. We've got one other. The leaves on this one are a little bit damaged, so I won't include those because we don't want anything to detract from our design. So we'll whip those off. Oh. Don't be afraid when it moves, because it will take a little bit of time till it's filled out all the way for you to sit. Right, next colour pink is this one, nice and bright against the black as well. What I would suggest you do is sort out your colours beforehand so that you've got them ready to use in the groupings that you want to use them in, rather than go searching through the bucket for them. So, in terms of grading the colours, we could go dark and then have the lighter colour underneath, or we could go the transition from the pale pink to the brighter pink to the very bright pink, and I think that's the way we'll go. I'm going to let that relax until I've got some other placements in. So once again, it's got a couple of leaves that are a bit tired, so we'll take them off. What I should be doing probably is, I'm doing it with my eye, but when you're trimming them, just measure against your container to make sure that you're going to get the finished height that you want for that particular grouping. And always cut it longer than you think you're going to need it, because you can always cut it down. It's very hard to do anything once you've cut it too short, other than leave it at the length that you've cut it, or cut it even shorter and put it into a bowl somewhere. shall continue the placements and you can just watch. So there you have our finished design, our arrangement. As you can see, I've mixed the colours in a little bit more. We've got interesting from all angles. What I was talking to you about earlier was that if you had it flat facing, it would be asymmetric, which might work for you in wherever you're going to place it, either way, whether you've got the darker flowers at the front or the lighter flowers at the front. So that's that way. You could place it that way. So that's with the vase being more diamond focused than square. But as I said to you at the beginning, I'm not a big fan of the glossy black vase, and so very simply, to tone that down a bit, what I've got is a pair of old tights, old stockings. I've just cut the legs off, and we're simply going to wrap that around the vase. So we just lift the vase up, pull the stockings on, pull the pantyhose on, pull the tights on, whatever you call them, and just tuck it in a little bit at the edges, and that takes away that very harsh glossy finish to the design. Now I can feel that I've got a seam there, so I'll just spin it around so that the seams are at the sides rather than at the front. So there we have our table centre or entrance. Now for a table centre, I will just say that this is probably a little bit too high because you can't talk through it, you've got to talk around it. So you'd have to bring those down to more of a dome shape so that you could talk over the top of it. But for an entranceway, or for a feature on a buffet table, something like that. Do it this way. Easy way to tone down your vases if they're not quite right. If you wanted to match, say I wanted to match the colour of the flowers with the vase, I could wrap some wool, so 3 or 4 lines of wool around the vase itself that brings the colour down into the container and gives you a feeling of a complete arrangement rather than just vase and flowers in the top. But let's leave it there for today. So that's our second design using one bunch of store-bought flowers, and for this I used 8 stems of the spray roses, the end of the magnolia leaves from one of the other designs that was in the bunch as well, so that was a single stem in the bunch, and I used 3 in another design and the rest of them, so 3 in this design, and the single stem of the silver dollar or eucalyptus leaf that was also in the bunch as the greenery in the bunch. There we have it. Join us for videos 3 and 4 and have a look at 1 if you haven't already done so. I'm Kim Bailey, this is Floral Art Online, and you're looking at the series using store-bought flowers, one bunch of store-bought flowers for your designs.